It's important to recognize that in much the same way that sports betting has reduced the quality of sports, it's reduced the quality of video games. Not much of a gamer anymore, but I remember the before and after loot box time. And very distinctly, the goal of creating a video game changed from creating a video game that lots of people want to buy. Okay, might not be high art, but you want to appeal to people to make it fun, versus to get people in the door to plug them into a gambling economy and run it forever. I'm not a huge sports gamer, but you see this with games like FIFA, for example. There's the technical game, right? The thing on the box, and then what actually makes money, which is basically an online card game. Similar things have happened in other sports games. It becomes what people refer to as a live service, something like Netflix that you are constantly paying into forever. It's not like I bought a game, here it is on my hard drive, I'm good for as long as I want to play it. Now it is, well, you're paying. Also, you're paying every month. And also, if you really want the full experience, if you want to get your gambling dopamine, well, you got to be buying in constantly. And look, most people don't do that. Not everyone does it. But the money to be made from effectively abusing what they call whales, people with a lot of money to spend who are hyper addicted to this, is so great that effectively it doesn't matter. And to your point again, we understand, much like giving a kid alcohol or drugs at a young age, these things are doubly habit forming on developing brains. And the idea that this is just something we have to accept as part of being, free market, sort of limited government Republicans is absurd. You don't have to. You can just say no and it would go away. Sure, will there be that person who finds the convoluted way, onto the dark web to bet on, I don't know, Korean soccer leagues? Yeah, sure. But that's not most people. And again, I can't remember who it was, some German, might have been Bismarck, said governing by the margin makes for poor laws, right? The idea of you can never fix every edge case, but it is entirely possible to solve this problem for most people. It just requires you to say some things are worth more than a marginal increase to GDP. And that's a very uncomfortable thing for some people to say.
Yeah, and I mean, as somebody who I have myself turned down sports betting sponsors, like I simply am not going to engage in that. But we can see how again ubiquitous this is across all kinds of domains. Again, in the video game spaces and the streaming spaces. I mean, we don't, we know people who know this, but some older audience members may be shocked to discover that many of these streamers have millions and millions and millions of followers who are involved themselves on a regular basis. They're often much larger than any given cable TV news audience or program. And these are all people who are involved in engaging with this content. In many cases, we see the advertisements. Of course, you can't listen to Joe Rogan podcasts or any of these very popular podcasts without hearing FanDuel and what's the other one? DraftKings, like they're just everywhere all the time, right? There's just massive marketing campaigns, celebrities, every sports podcast. Like I said, it's literally integrated into the sports broadcast now. If you're watching NFL football, here they're giving you the betting lines, they're giving you the percentages, they're giving you the smart parlays. How can you take advantage? Because okay, just as a side, guys, if you're dumb enough, I have to remember where we can use the R word, what platforms we can get away with it on now.
Only when referring to Tim Walz, I think,
Okay.
is that appropriate.
That's the rules. But if you are dumb enough to actually like invest in a bet that you're seeing on the screen because they told you it was smart at NFL, like all the other millions of people who are watching this simultaneously didn't just get the exact same orders, is insane. And as you pointed out, if any member of Congress was just going out there, or if any CEO was saying, definitely bet on this, definitely buy this stock, definitely involve yourself because here is the inside information as to why you should do this, like 1,000 red flags, alarm bells everywhere. And yet this is just dominating. Like even people who have explicitly said that like addictive behavior, sports gambling, these things are ultimately bad examples for the community, like Joe Rogan, are still taking just massive amounts of money from these sponsors. And so it seems inescapable. It's woven into every aspect of society, even the people who are playing the game, people who are commentating on the game, the people who are producing the game are all involved, are all pushing it, are all in some cases actively fixing the results to make profits. It just seems like it's almost like we hit the Wild West. There's too much money sloshing around. There's no way that we can get a hold of it in time, and everyone's just making too much money in order to push back. And so this whole thing is just kind of we're getting the accelerationism. The decisions are just kind of making themselves, because even people who know that ultimately this is wrong or stupid or a long time losing game, they can't turn it away now because it's just too profitable.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the media angle, because as you've said, if this were stocks, it would be market manipulation. The guy on the TV says, buy this, put your money on this, while he is sponsored by the guy on the other end of that. Like,
yeah, only Jim Cramer's allowed to get away with that. Come on.
Well, I mean, you look at the performance of the reverse Kramer ETF fund, and you start to wonder, what is he being paid to do?
It's very true.
For instance, right? Like, do you think if you go to the owner of the casino, if you go to the guy who's running the roulette table and ask him where to put your money, you think he's going to give you an honest answer? His whole success depends on you not making the right decision. And so the idea that this isn't corrupting, sports broadcasting, or also the kind of social media influencers, for instance, many athletes who are currently competing in these sports leagues, or, nonetheless, like popular commentators or figures or whatever, giving you what they think you should bet on. Like, this is absurd. Like, again, I know that, imagine if the circumstances were different is kind of the classic conservative refrain. But if you were doing this with the stock market, you would be in jail for the rest of your life. But because it's something different, even though it functions basically the same way, that's completely fine. And again, I don't want to come across as some kind of pearl clutching, social conservative, just upset that people are doing, nasty things, that people have vices. But there's a world of difference between a sensible understanding of, gambling and this unrestricted access to everyone at every stage of life at the press of a button, with massive amounts of corruption behind the scenes. It's genuinely, it boggles my mind that this is just something you are supposed to accept. Because if you wrote it out on paper, explaining exactly what the pros and cons of this, no one in their right mind would sign up for it. They'd be like, oh, no, this is a horrible system that's going to make almost everyone's life worse. It's like, yeah, well, it is how it is, basically.
Yeah, no one's talking about like rating your local, poker game, or making sure that no one can roll dice somewhere in an alley somewhere. It's they're talking about large scale, immediately available. Obviously, like heroin level of addiction worked into everything, specifically in many cases targeting children. Hey guys, if you've been watching this show for a while, then you know that around here we encourage something that conservatives usually don't do. Winning. If you like what I'm doing here and you want to keep it going, then head over to Blaze TV. They have the behind-the-scenes content, exclusives, and documentaries that you're just not going to see anywhere else. So go to blazetv.com/Auron and subscribe today. The promo code is AURON, and you'll save $20 right now off the annual plan.